are in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and we're along the side of the St. Jerome's Church. It was started as a parish in 1856. It is the third oldest Catholic church in Western Massachusetts. It was made, of course, for the people of Holyoke, but also in the beginning for any parishioner north of Holyoke all the way up to Greenfield. So there was no other churches around. There's one in Chicopee, one in Pittsfield, and that's it. So you can see the side here, and we're moving around. You can see there's stained glass windows with protective seals around outside of it. The stained glass inside is very beautiful. Supposedly it came from a German stained glass maker. You can see in the very back of the church there's a chapel for the priest, and there often are chapels like this, especially in these very old churches. You can see the back spire. It's all green, now greenish color, but it used to be coppery color. And then you can see the big steeple towards the front. Now, you can also see, if you look closely, a monument right towards the middle. We're going to be over there in a minute or so. That's an actual burial. It's the only burial outside of cemetery in Holyoke. But there used to be others. It's the priest that found this whole parish and church. Now, the parish changed into a church in 1860, so this church is from that range. Now, it looks very modern, and that's because in 1934, it burned down to about halfway up the stained glass windows. And then they re-bricked it and redone the church and the steeple. The steeple was okay, mostly. The back of the church is what took a lot of the damage. It burned, and sadly, one of the firemen died during the fight of the fire. Now, of course, the church has many things around it, and we're going to point those out when we cross the street. And we're also going to cross another street outside to get the front of the church, and it's also its chapel. So there's a lot to see in this one. It's a very important church. It's one of 3 Catholic churches as of 2023, still in operation. So let's go across the street. Okay, we're looking at the front of the monument to the Reverend Jeremiah O'Callaghan. He was the first priest, the founder priest of the St. Jerome Parish. He was a pastor up in Burlington, Vermont. There was only one Catholic diocese in New England. That was the Catholic Diocese of New England back in 1856. And the cardinal told him, come to Holyoke, they're getting lots of immigrants from Ireland. He himself was from Ireland. And that allowed him to communicate better with his parishioners. Now, he asked to be buried in the basement of the church in a crypt, but they couldn't afford to make a crypt for him, and so what they did, they buried him outside the walls. He would have been proud of that, of course. Most founding Catholic pastors of a church pre-1900 are buried alongside their church. Now, that was true in 3 cases in Holyoke. There were 4 pre-1900 churches, and one of them the pastor didn't want to get buried outside the church. But in 3 of them they did. And Jeremiah O'Callaghan's the only one left, because Michael Howard of the Rosary Church, his body was taken out when the Rosary Church was totally moved. And also, Andre Dufresne of the Precious Blood Church was also buried in front of his church. And when in 1989 they took down that church, they moved his body to South Hadley into the Precious Blood Cemetery. So he is the only one that's left. And it has a beautiful quote on the front of it, and I'll go over there and read it to you. Okay, sacred to the memory of the Reverend Jeremiah O'Callaghan, a native of Newport, Ireland, the first Western pastor founded in St. Jerome's Church Point. The duties of his laborious mission is discharged with great fidelity. Whereas 6 years later, of his monument has been erected to die for his So that's a very nice. That's a very nice quote on there, and I hope you come here and appreciate this beautiful monument to Jeremiah O'Callaghan. So we'll go to the front of the church now. Okay, and you can see in the cornerstone, which is really a front stone, over here it says St. Jerome Church, 1856. That was the year the parish started. The church itself was finished 1860. And you can see, as you look upwards, you can see it's very beautiful. Right? And remember that the front of the church is mostly still the original. It was redone once around 1890, but it's pretty much are close to being the original. It's the back that was redone twice. Once in 1890 and then another in 1834 after the fire. So the front, the most important part, looks very close to what it looks like. Now, we're going to show you one more. Around its side, its western edge, it has the biggest chapel I've seen in the Western Massachusetts in a Catholic church. It's almost as big as a regular church. And this is St. Patrick's Chapel, built in 1890. And that's why the church was redone also at that point. It was extended towards the back and redone. And you can see St. Patrick is on the third floor of the statue. This is a very beautiful chapel made in the Gothic style, as the regular church is. They've been holding masses in there lately since it's smaller, and you can see it has many spires on it, and they wanted it that way to be very distinctive. And you can see also along the edges it has a lot of buttresses in the form of little dormers. All right, so very briefly, just going to point out our next stop. You can see across the street there's a convent to the right, a nun's chapel in the middle, and another convent towards the left. And also, you can see off at this corner right here, you have the rectory. So the church is the first stop you should go on, but I hope you go to all the other stops, both at this corner and then around the whole block, because this church was enormous, and its effect was enormous on the community. Well, thank you for coming to the stop.